Bang! The moment the 9 bright stars in the sky were aligned, the entire world suddenly emitted a powerful energy fluctuation. A strange fog spread from the emptiness as a sound wave vaguely spread across the world. The world tide, it is indeed the same as what was stated on the ancient map. Xiaoyan slowly stood up on the top of the tree. He lifted his head, looked at the faint fog that covered the land, and muttered to himself. Swoosh! A couple rays of light swiftly rushed over from the star realm while Xiaoyan was muttering to himself. They appeared beside Xiaoyan in a couple of flashes. These rays of light were Yao Lao's group. The demonic flame is about to descend on the world. Yao Lao landed beside Xiaoyan and spoke in a grave voice. Xiaoyan nodded. Countless experts would be rushing to location of the purifying demonic lotus flame from tomorrow on. Even though many people knew that they did not possess the ability to subdue the purifying demonic lotus flame, all of them would adopt a hopeful attitude. After all, anyone who could obtain the purifying demonic lotus flame and refine it would undoubtedly experience a great leap in strength. At that time, one would even be able to easily win against an expert who far surpassed one's strength. That temptation was just too much to resist. When shall we get moving? Yao Lao asked. Xiaoyan hesitated for a moment upon hearing this question. His expression suddenly changed just before he could speak. He suddenly lifted his head as he looked at the night sky to the northwest. An intense light was emitted from the distant sky at that moment. This light contained an extremely terrifying temperature. It spread like a wave and reached an unbelievably large area. It was still possible for one to feel a heat rising within one's heart within the falling star pavilion. This is the purifying demonic lotus flame has appeared in this world. Yao Lao sensed this unusual phenomenon. He inhaled a gentle breath of cool air. He had not expected this demonic flame to break its seal with such anxiety. Bang bang! Xiaoyan's hand gently pressed on his forehead. The mysterious light cluster suspended in his head had once again formed an intense ripple at this moment. Who? Xiaoyan exhaled a long breath of air. A thought passed through his mind as he gradually suppressed the unusual movements of the light cluster. With his perfect heavenly state spiritual strength, he might not be able to enter the cluster of light, but it was not much of a problem for him to suppress it. We will leave now. Regardless of what the situation is like, we should head over to take a look before deciding what to do. Xiaoyan spoke in a deep voice. His eyes flashed after suppressing that light cluster. The speed at which the demonic flame had appeared was much faster than he had anticipated. It was likely that various experts were beginning to hurry over. Xiaoyan's group needed to swiftly reach that place. Even if they did not intend to act immediately, it would be best to gain a clear view of the situation as soon as possible. Yao Lao was startled, but he did not say anything more. A long whistle was emitted from his mouth. That whistle spread over the well-lit star realm as many figures began to hurriedly fly over from various parts of it. Finally, they floated in the sky. The people right in front of this group was the first elder of the small pill tower, Ancestor Hua Yun, and the flower sects Fairy Qing and Fairy Hua. This trip is extremely critical. I already invited them over 2 days ago. Yao Lao smiled as he informed Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan titled his in acknowledgement. At this moment, each additional person was more strength, meaning an additional chance of success. Everyone, this trip is fraught with danger. If anyone meets with danger that you are no match for, please withdraw. The most important thing is to preserve one's strength. Xiaoyan spoke in a deep voice. The experts present were considered the elite forces of the alliance. If their losses were too great, it would severely hurt the core of the alliance. Snatching the purifying demonic lotus flame might be important, but there was no need for unnecessary sacrifices in order to obtain it. Understood. The many human figures in the sky cried out in unison upon hearing Xiaoyan's orders. Xiao Yan's strength and reputation within the alliance was not inferior to Yao Lao's prestige. No one dared to go against his words. "Let's go." Xiao Yan did not utter any unnecessary words upon hearing them agree. He waved his hand and his body turned into a ray of light that swiftly rushed out of the star realm. After which, they rushed toward the location where the demonic flame had appeared with lightning-like speed. A large group shot through the sky behind them. Large groups of people were flying from various sects and factions across the central plains, while the falling star pavilion was maneuvering their people. After which, every group was accompanied by the buzzing sound of rushing wind as they flew through the sky a batch at a time. Their destination was the northwestern region of the Central Plains. Within a short night, the entire Central Plains had turned into a mess. Swoosh! The loud sound of wind being split suddenly blew across the sky as a large group of people flew over from the distant horizon. "We are entering the area 500 kilometers from where the demonic flame has appeared." Xiao Yan lifted his head. His eyes observed the distant area in front. A glaring light was being emitted like a dazzling sun in that direction. Wave after wave of terrifying heat came pouncing over as they approached. Even though those present in this trip were all extremely strong individuals, many of them were still covered in perspiration. It is indeed worthy of being the purifying demonic lotus flame. Just the heat that is being emitted will make it difficult for 6-star and above elite Dozuns to resist. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the people behind him. His brow was involuntarily knit. A 6-star elite Dozun could be considered a top-tier expert across the continent. However, this strength was barely able to resist the remnant heat of the purifying demonic lotus flame. From this heat, one could tell just how terrifying the purifying demonic lotus flame was. "Xiao Yan, we have met at least 10 groups along the way. Their aim is clearly the purifying demonic lotus flame. It seems like there will be an earth-shaking fight over it this time around." Ziyan's pretty eyes swept around her as she spoke. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. They had indeed met quite a number of groups with the same intentions along the way, but he did not pay much attention to them. Although those people were quite strong, they were still a little too weak to snatch the purifying demonic lotus flame. "I wonder whether the Hun clan and the other ancient clans have already reached." Xiao Yan's eyes scanned the area far in front of him as this thought flashed through his heart. He once again waved his hand and cried out in a deep voice, "Increase our speed." The 500-kilometer distance could be covered by experts like Xiao Yan within a couple of minutes. Although there was a large group delaying him, the entire group gradually reached the mountainous region where the demonic flame had descended around 20 minutes later. The lush green mountain range had completely vanished. Only a cream-white desert remained. A terrifying heat radiated from the ground, causing the area within a 500-kilometer radius to reveal a distortion. What a terrifying flame this purifying demonic lotus flame is. It has actually incinerated such an enormous mountain range into a desert. Yao Lao involuntarily inhaled a breath of cool air as he looked at the enormous desert that appeared in front of him. His face was filled with shock. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. A flame surged from his body and wrapped around everyone from the alliance. Only then was the searing pain on his skin reduced. After which, he lifted his head and looked at the distant sky. That area had already been split apart. A cream-white light broke from the space and poured down. The light emitted a terrifying temperature that even the soul was unable to endure. The space that sealed the purifying demonic lotus flame has already been broken. However, the demonic flame has not appeared. It is probably still in that realm. This cream-white light is merely its lingering heat, Xiao Yan softly explained after seeing this scene. Lingering heat. Even with Ziyan's strength, her face involuntarily changed upon hearing these words. A little lingering heat was able to incinerate the mountain range and turn it into a desert. Just how frightening would it be if they entered that realm? Swoosh, swoosh. Soon after Xiao Yan's group appeared in this desert, waves of the sound of rushing wind were transmitted from every direction. Numerous figures came to a halt far from that broken space. Their eyes contained some horror as they stared at this cream-white desert. They were aware that this place had originally been a mountainous region that had been filled with life before this night. From the looks of it, it seems that we must enter that realm in order to obtain the purifying demonic lotus flame. Yao Lao stared at the space above for a long time before speaking. There is no need to hurry. This realm is fraught with all sorts of danger. We are not qualified to be the first to step forward. Xiao Yin shook his head. Even he could sense an immense danger. If this group of theirs were to hastily enter, hardly any of them would be able to escape alive.
Yao Lao note that.
Being an alchemist, he was naturally able to detect just how frightening it would be within that broken space.
Key.
The space near them suddenly fluctuated, while Xiao Yan's group carefully waited. A dense black fog seeped out in all directions from this fluctuation. A frightening aura that caused one's expression to alter quietly spread. It immediately attracted all the eyes present. Many pairs of eyes glanced at the spot where the black fog had appeared. Finally, the black fog slowly scattered, and a couple of human figures appeared in front of everyone's sight. That is the chief of the Hall of Souls? Yao Lao's group narrowed their eyes as they looked at the black-robed human figure leading the group. That figure possessed a frightening aura. The dou qi within their bodies began to quietly circulate. 3 figures slowly surfaced from the black fog. One of them was wearing black robes. There was nothing special about his face. He appeared just like an ordinary person as a pair of rough hands rolled from his sleeves. But it was this ordinary figure that caused most people present to cease breathing. Their eyes were grave and afraid. Chief of the Hall of Souls. These 4 simple words held a prestige that no one in this central plains could compare with. Even though this mighty name had been accumulated through years of bloodshed, not a single faction other than the new Sky Mansion Alliance dared to openly display their hostility to them. Part of the reason for this might be due to the Hun clan, but the Hall of Souls also possessed a deterrence that belonged to them. In the distant past, the chief of the Hall of Souls had once exterminated dozens of sects overnight. Blood flowed like a river that night while corpses were scattered all over the land. 5 experts who had reached the 2nd star of the Doshang class had fallen miserably to his hands. That night established the ferocious reputation of the Hall of Souls. It also led to the Hall of Souls being the overlord of the Central Plains. Even the Pill Tower did not dare to easily clash with him. At this moment, this mighty person, whose fierce reputation was once infamous across the entire Central Plains, was quietly floating in the sky. His eyes were just like a meditating old monk, since they did not reveal the slightest fluctuation. Regardless of whether the gazes from his surroundings were filled with fear or hatred, he never shifted his eyes. Chief of the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yan's eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze roamed the figure. The faint spiritual fluctuation that was emitted from within the chief's body was the same as the powerful soul Xiao Yin had met a couple of days ago. While Xiao Yin was observing the chief of the Hall of Souls, the chief of the Hall of Souls seemed to have detected something and slowly turned his head. Those ancient ripple-as-swell-like eyes landed on Xiao Yin. He observed Xiao Yin before speaking in an indifferent voice. The fallen Xiao clan has actually produced someone with such talent. This is a failure on the part of my Hall of Souls. Hall Chief, this brat is too cunning. Although we never viewed him seriously in the past, the experts we dispatched each time were all more than enough to kill him, but each time around, he always overcame the danger. Moreover, his strength also ended up soaring. A human figure behind the chief of the Hall of Souls spoke in a respectful manner. He slowly lifted his head and revealed half of his face. It naturally belonged to the deputy chief of the Hall of Souls. In time to come, this fellow might end up becoming another Xiaoxian. The chief of the Hall of Souls ignored the deputy chief's words and continued to speak in a calm voice. His voice remained calm, appearing a little strange and mysterious. The deputy hall chief widened his mouth after hearing the chief of the Hall of Souls give Xiao Yin such a high evaluation. He looked at the figure next to him who had yet to speak and dryly laughed. Regardless of how strong that brat is, he is not be stronger than junior clan head. Even if Xiao Yin will be the next Xiao Xin, it should be known that Xiao Xin's fate was not a good one. Ha! An undefined laugh was emitted from the nostrils of the Hall of Souls' chief. He slowly shook his head and softly said, "That's hard to predict." He possesses 5 types of heavenly flames, namely the green lotus core flame, falling heart flame, sea heart flame, bone-chilling flame, and the 3,000 burning flame. Heavenly flames are far too wild and violent. They will definitely try engulfing each other upon contact, but he is able to deal with them peacefully. This should be an effect of his chi method. That human figure slowly lifted his head while the chief of the Hall of Souls looked at him. Light landed on his face, revealing the face of a man that was in his 30s. The face appeared quite young, but there was no expression on it. Joy and sadness were absent. It gave one the feeling that all his features were stiff. Of course, the most eye-catching feature was this person's eyes. Both of his eyes were dark black. They were a kind of extremely pure black. There were no whiteness in his eyes. Only a cluster of ink-like blackness was present. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though 2 black beads had forcefully been inserted into his eyes. A chill would rise within one's heart upon being looked at by that pair of eyes. This person turned his head and observed Xiao Yin from a great distance. His voice was soft and cold. Based on what I am aware of, Yao Chen once obtained a mysterious chi method that could merge heavenly flames from that ancient remains. Xiao Yin is practicing that chi method. The reason he is able to swiftly advance to this level is because of that chi method. Of course, one must also not underestimate his ability. Even if an ordinary person practices this chi method, that person might not end up better than him. After having merely observed Xiao Yin from afar, this person was not only able to see through the heavenly flames within Xiao Yan's body, he was also able to guess the origin of the chi method that Xiao Yan practiced. His observation skills would cause one to break out in cold sweat. He is a very difficult opponent to deal with, however. I should be able to kill him. The black-robed man slowly stated, "Haha, that's only natural. Although Junior Clan Head is merely an advanced 2-star Doshang, even I would not be able to defeat you. It is an easy matter for you to kill the initial 2-star Doshang Xiao Yan. Looks like the position of Clan Head of the Hun Clan will belong to Junior Clan Head in the future." The deputy chief of the Hall of Souls smiled as he tried to curry favor. The black-robed man curled his mouth upon hearing these words. However, he looked at the deputy chief of the Hall of Souls and said, "You should listen to what the hall chief is thinking before uttering these words. Junior Clan Head is thinking too much. The clan head has an overwhelming strength and has been in control of the Hun clan for thousands of years without showing any sign of tiring. It is too early to talk about these matters." The hall chief faintly smiled before he shook his head and replied. The black-robed man gently lifted his eyelids, but did not continue discussing this somewhat taboo topic. His eyes shifted away from Xiao Yin as he looked at the shattered space. He asked, "When should we act?" Wait for the purifying demonic lotus flame to break the seal. This will make it lose quite a lot of energy. We will act once it is about to break the seal." The rough, large hands of the Hall of Souls chief crossed each other as he spoke. The black-robed man slightly nodded. His pure black eyes once again glacéed at Xiao Yin in the distance before he shut his eyes. Is that the chief of the Hall of Souls? He is indeed frightening. Ancestor Ho Yun and the rest withdrew their gazes. Their faces were filled with a grave expression as Ancestor Ho Yun made a comment. Xiao Yin slightly nodded. Only after seeing the chief of the Hall of Souls in person, he realized just how terrifyingly strong he was. Even Xiao Yin felt that he did not have any chance of victory against such an expert. This person is a great enemy. Be careful. The smile on Ziyan's face by the side had disappeared. Her lovely body gently shifted half a step and coincidentally blocked half of Xiao Yan's body. She was the only one among those present who could block the chief of the Hall of Souls. Moreover, she understood that even if she fought him, she would be no match for him. The best result would be to retreat alone. Relax, they will not attack before obtaining the purifying demonic lotus flame. Xiao Yin shook his head and laughed. Ha ha, brother Xiao Yin, you have also come to join the fun. A loud and clear laugh was suddenly transmitted over from the distance, while Xiao Yin was reassuring everyone. The rushing sound of wind immediately appeared as a couple of figures appeared beside him with lightning-like speed. Xiao Yan's eyes followed the rushing sound of wind. A stunned expression flashed across his eyes. He hurriedly headed over before he cupped his hands together and warmly smiled. It is actually Brother Ho Xian. It has been a long time since we last met. How are you? There were 3 human figures who had appeared from the rushing wind. The person leading them was a handsome man with white clothes. That familiar face was that of a member from the Yin clan whom Xiao Yin had become acquainted with in the Gu realm, Ho Xian. Beside him was the same red-clothed lady with a veil over her face. This time around, there was an additional purple-clothed old man with them. Brother Xiao Yin is indeed an extraordinary person. It has only been a short couple of years since we have last met, yet you have actually reached the Dosheng class. Huaxian cupped his hands to Xiao Yin as he praised. He had likely discovered Xiao Yan's current strength. Haha, isn't Brother Huaxian also a high-level Bansheng? Xiao Yin slightly smiled. His heart was somewhat shocked. The speed at which Ho Xian's strength was increasing was quite ferocious. Had Xiao Yin not consumed the Bodhisattva heart, it was likely that he would have been left far behind. Inside your body. Xiao Yan's eyes carefully observed Huaxian in front of him while he felt surprised. He let out a "huh" sound as he looked at the smiling Huaxian and asked, You have refined a heavenly flame? With the help of the elders, I have luckily subdued the 8 Wasteland destruction flame from the clan. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for my strength to soar by such an extent. Huaxian smiled and did not hide anything. The 8 Wasteland destruction flame ranked 8th on the heavenly flame ranking. Xiao Yan's hand trembled. He was aware that the Yin clan possessed 4 types of heavenly flames. 2 among them were ranked in the top 10, but he had not expected the other flame, besides the red lotus-y flame, to actually be the 8 Wasteland destruction flame. It is indeed worthy of being an ancient clan. It possesses such a collection. Xiao Yin was filled with envy within his heart. He had run all over the continent, but the highest-ranked heavenly flame he had obtained was merely ranked 9th, the 3,000 burning flame. It was unexpected that this Ho Xian had obtained such a high-ranking heavenly flame after simply making a trip back. Brother Xiao Yin, this is my Yin clan's elder Hua Yao. He also possesses a heavenly flame, but it is only ranked 16th, the fire cloud water flame. Huaxian pointed at the purple-clothed elder beside him and laughed. Another heavenly flame? Xiao Yin once again bitterly laughed upon hearing this. Putting it this way, the 3 people in front of him were carrying 3 types of heavenly flames from the Yin clan. If the 5 types of heavenly flames in him were included, would it not mean that a total of 8 types of heavenly flames were present? Haha, Xiao Yin GG, there are more than 8 types. A clear chime-like voice suddenly rinto Xiao Yan's ear, as though it was aware of Xiao Yan's thoughts. Sun Air? A joy immediately surged onto Xiao Yan's face the moment that bone-deep familiar voice was heard.